I'm currently in a bit of denial about summer ending next month. It is just the best season for me. I do not care if you prefer winter. I am a summer supporter to the day I die. So I actually compiled a list of books that I wanted to read before summer is over and the UK delves into an eternal winter again, and I wanted to share them with you. Will I read all these books? Probably not, but God forbid a girl has ambition. And if you're new here, welcome to the channel. I'm Katerina. I pretty much yap about books here, and if that's your thing, why not subscribe? Okay, in literally no particular order, the very first book I want to read is Greek Lessons by Kang. So this novel mainly revolves around two characters. The first is a woman who loses her ability to speak after a personal loss and also the collapse of her marriage, and she's decided to enroll into a Greek language class, more or less hoping that learning a new language will help her find her voice again. And at the same time, we also follow her Greek language teacher who is actually losing his sight, and he's very much drawn to her silence. Throughout the book, we shift through their different perspectives, and they essentially share their struggles in loneliness and how they find solace through each other through language. This novel explores a wide array of themes, but mostly including identity, grief, and how language can both connect us but also isolate us. One of the reasons I personally love summer is that for me, it's very much a time for meeting new people. Just because there's so many events and activities on during summer because people want to make the most out of the good weather, so I tend to socialize a lot more. Maybe just because I'm speaking from experience, but I'm definitely a bit more of a hermit during winter. But it made me think about how I personally connect with others and the kind of language that I use in order to kind of suss people out. And it's so beautiful when you find someone that you really connect with. When you speak to them, you just feel like you're bouncing back and forth from each other. And sometimes you end up meeting people you just didn't expect, and also that you thought you were unlikely to get on with. And I have a feeling that this book is very much a homage to that. It's about meeting someone who you might not necessarily thought you would bond with, but you end up getting along with really well, where it essentially leads to very unexpected intimacy and connection. And to be honest, this very much sounds right up my street. And to be honest, anything that's kind of related to Greece and Greek very much reminds me of summer, so I just feel like this is the perfect book to read for now. And another book that's actually set in Greece that I do very much want to read soon is Outline by Rachel Cusk. I actually did mention in my mid-year freakout tag that I wanted to read this before the end of the year, so I am a woman of my word. I very much want to read this soon. This story follows a British writer who moves to Athens in order to teach a summer course. And throughout the book, she doesn't really speak about herself. It's mostly based on the interactions that she has with different people around her. This includes the person she sat next to on the plane, her colleagues, her students, and the various other acquaintances that she has. And each conversation she has with these different people are basically different meditations on life, which includes love, ambition, divorce, grief, regret. There's so many topics. And through these different conversations, we learn snippets of this writer's life through the things that she tells other people. And I think that this is just a really interesting narrative to have. Like with Greek Lessons, I think that this very much explores identity and meaning and how we represent ourselves through the stories that we tell. I actually think I'm going to be reading this book next because this just sounds absolutely wonderful and I'm very excited to read this. I've actually heard so many marvelous things about Rachel Cusk's work, and I actually do have a lot of her books, but I just haven't read any of them yet. I'm hoping I read this one and I just become utterly obsessed with her, and then I can just read the rest of her books in one quick succession. End of Summer for me is about being very reflective because I think back on all the memories that I've made over the year so far, so I quite like reflective books like this for this time of year. So I'm very much looking forward to this. So pray for me that I actually like it because I've had a few disappointments lately and I really hope that this is not one of them. Another book I want to read is moving away from Greece and back to the UK, and that's Seven Summers by Paige Toon. This story follows a woman who has lived many years abroad and she decides to return to her childhood home in England. And when she returns, she's very much reconnected with the past, including facing her first love, confronting past wounds, and also unresolved feelings. And this book essentially spans over 7 summers of her life. Big surprise by the title. And it explores how each season is pivotal in her life in shaping who she is. Themes explored include nostalgia, second chances, and just the complex nature of relationships. I don't know why, but when I first saw this book, I just assumed it was going to be a cheesy rom-com. Honestly, I think it's because of how the cover looked, and I blame that on the marketing department. And yes, I do judge books by their cover. Anyone who says that they don't is frankly a liar. But I've heard very good things about this, and I consistently see that it does have high ratings. But obviously from experience, high ratings doesn't always equal a good book, but I'm willing to give this a go. I'm also just such a sucker for nostalgia. Like anything including nostalgia will have me weak in the knees. You know that scene from Inside Out 2 when that personified version of nostalgia comes in and they're all like, oh, not yet, you're not due till later. Nostalgia pretty much is running my brain right now. On the occasional day it's disgust, but it's usually nostalgia. God, literally what the hell am I talking about? Moving back to books. Not to say that I live in the past, but definitely during summer I kind of ruminate on old feelings and think back to past people in my life. And I feel like this book also explores these these notions, so I'm very much ready to read this now. And moving up slightly further up north in the UK to Scotland, the next book I want to read before summer ends is To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf. Here we're essentially following a family who is summering in the Isle of Skye, and they're also hosting some guests in their summer house. And the book is split into different parts for all these different occasions that they visit this house. The first part is set one day before World War I breaks out, and we very much follow this family struggle with unspoken tensions and desires and just different dynamics within the family. And then the second part, I think, spans over a decade of the war, and we experience this loss and change that's happened during this time. And then the last section very much looks at the temporary nature of life and how relationships and dynamics change over time. It very much focuses on the characters reflecting on life and finding resolutions within themselves and also each other. If you've been following me a while, you'll know that I absolutely love a sad summer read, especially during the end of summer. Maybe because I am mourning summer, so I feel like I need to lean into these emotions of being sad. But I feel like this book will be perfect to read because, firstly, it's literally set in the summer season and they're going to their holiday home. And it just seems very deep and reflective and looks at the passage of time and what people mean to us and what we stay alive for. Just all my favourite things. And I like these sort of notions when they're explored in other books, so I really hope that I like this book too. This may be shocking to some of you, but I've actually never read Virginia Woolf before, so I am very excited to read this book because I get recommended her literature so often. So I feel like it's very much time for me to pick up one of her books, and I want to start with this one. So hopefully I'm going to be reading this soon and letting you know what I think. For my next book, I want you all to be very proud of me because I'm giving another short story collection a go. I haven't seemed to have the best experiences with short story collections, but I'm quite determined to change my mind on this. I believe that there are good ones out there, I just haven't had the fortune of finding them because I find most of them quite boring and repetitive. So a book that I do want to pick up soon to read is A Black Swans by Babitz. This is a collection of 9 autobiographical short stories set in Los Angeles during the late 80s and early 90s. And the author pretty much writes about this era, the wild parties with rock stars and artists and lovers, but also the dark side that comes along with this, such as loss and aging and the AIDS crisis that were currently going on at the time. It's very much a blend of this cultural commentary along with her own personal self-reflections and her own nostalgia, which you obviously know my feelings about nostalgia. And this novel also just examines the privileges of beauty whilst also dealing with the temporary nature of youth and desire. Whenever I do think about Los Angeles, I always just think of summer. The sun is shining, there's palm trees everywhere, people are either chilling at the beach or attending parties. This probably isn't reflective of Los Angeles, but it's very much the image that we are given in the media. And I feel like it would be very much fun to read a book about this, especially a non-fiction one. I actually really wish that I was an adult in the 80s and 90s. I think it was just such a fun and wild era to be alive for. So much was happening culturally and so many things were rapidly changing that I think that just being aware as an adult during this time would have just been very fascinating. So I think it would be super interesting to read the point of view of someone who actually lived during this era and had these opinions about what was going on. And I feel like the topics explored here will actually be engrossing enough for me to actually like short stories, especially if they're non-fiction. So we'll see how this goes. Along with reading sad reflective books, I feel like my summers are very much not complete if I don't at least read one story about a completely unhinged woman. Maybe it's because I myself do unhinged things during this season, so I like reading other fictional women do this too. So a book I want to read before summer is out is The Guest by Emma Cline. This story is set over the course of a summer in New York on Long Island, and we follow a young woman who is actually a bit of a fraudster, and I think at the start she is dating a much older, wealthier man, and he essentially grants her a lot of access to these very wealthy spaces and groups within the city. However, I think at some point he gets very suspicious of her and they fall out, but she's still very much determined to remain within these circles, and she relies on her wit and her beauty and her instincts in order to stay within them. And she essentially moves between different houses and parties and beds in order to stay within this social circle. This novel very much explores feelings of want and desire, along with class divisions between the rich and the poor. Obviously, I think this will be great to read for now because of its very much atmospheric coastal setting. This novel takes place in the heat of Long Island's beaches and pools and extravagant summer houses. And I feel like this whole chaos that comes with parties and socializing is just perfect for now. You may not be able to tell because I really pull myself together for these videos, but I have been out drinking for the past 4 nights and I am very much feeling it, but that literally only happens to me during summer. Just because it's summer and it's chaotic and people want to do things and you just feel like you have to catch up along. So I feel like this book is very much perfect for me for now. I've also been watching Sex and the City over this summer, which I feel like is so summer coded to me now, and I want just more content of messy girls living in New York City. So yes, please. This is going to be my next book. And finally, the last book I want to mention here, because I feel that 7 books is probably a doable amount for me to read by the end of the season, is Beautyland by Marie-Helene Bertino. This is a bit of a weird premise for a book, but it sounds absolutely delightful. This book follows a girl who is sent to Earth by aliens to find out if these said aliens could actually live on Earth. She grows up on Earth under the care of a single Sicilian American mother, and she essentially reports back her findings about Earth to these aliens, via fax machine by the way, and she tells them about humanity's joys, their cruelties, and just the overall weirdness of the planet and what makes humans tick. This novel just seems to be a truly bizarre meditation on what it means to be human, and all the messy and complicated feelings that it brings along with it, including belonging and exile and connection and longing and wonder. If you can't already tell by the running theme of these books, I just love any novel that explores the inherent human condition. I find them so deep and existential, and it really makes me appreciate being alive and being human. I think, as previously mentioned, like with the other books, summer is just a time for connection and just being with other people and appreciating them. So I feel like reading a book that explores these kind of dynamics and these human feelings feels very much right for me for now. I also just love space and aliens, so I'm kind of looking forward to reading that in a book. And this novel also seems quite humorous as well, so I'm looking forward to reading something that isn't as sad and heavy as the others, but we'll see. And there you have it. Those are the books I want to read before the end of summer. I also just realized every single book I've mentioned here is written by a woman. And that's on feminism. We are supporting the girlies this summer. And on that note, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, please drop a like down below. And if you're new here and you enjoy this kind of content, why not subscribe? I make videos yapping about books. And I think I've actually just managed to hit 10,000 subscribers, which I am so happy about. So thank you all so much for subscribing. I kind of want to do a video to honor that, but I'm not really sure what to do. So if you have any ideas for me, then please let me know in the comments below. Please also let me know in the comments below what books you're hoping to read by the end of summer. I'd be really intrigued to hear what you guys have on your bookshelves. And as always, feel free to follow me on my socials. I have a Goodreads where I update in real time what books I'm reading, and I also have an Instagram where I do post my personal stuff, but I also do post the books that I've read, letting you know what they're about and what I rate them out of 10. And yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for being here and listening to me. And I just never have thought when I started this channel that people would actually subscribe. I just kind of made it for fun, but I'm already at 10,000, which is just kind of wild to me. But yeah, thank you so much. I love you and appreciate every single one of you, and I love replying and reading your comments and so on. I hope you guys have a great rest of your summer, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.